The forest was quiet, too quiet. Jessica stood in the clearing where she had killed White Mask. His body still lay twisted in the dirt, his cracked mask beside him. The fire had burned itself out, leaving only ash and smoke curling into the night sky. The woman she rescued sat nearby, arms wrapped around her knees, eyes wide and hollow. Jessica's hands still shook, the machete sticky with dried blood. She wanted to believe it was over. She wanted to believe the hunters were gone. But the forest wouldn't let her rest. The wind carried faint whistles, low, drawn-out tones that echoed between the trees. Jessica froze, her heart pounding. No, it couldn't be. She had watched them retreat. She had seen their shadows vanish into the night. Yet the sound was back. Did you hear that? Jessica whispered. The other woman nodded, trembling. They're still out there. Jessica forced herself to breathe. She scanned the treeline, every shadow alive, every branch shifting. Her instincts screamed, run. But she knew better. Running was what they wanted. Running meant falling into their traps. She crouched by White Mask's body. Flies buzzed around the blood. Something caught her eye, his hand clenched tight, gripping something even in death. Jessica pried his fingers open, wincing at the cold stiffness. Inside was a carved wooden token, etched with the same twisted symbol she had seen before. But this one was fresh. The cuts in the wood were sharp, new. She turned it over and felt her stomach twist. The back wasn't carved, it was burned. Letters seared into the wood, still faintly warm. Ashes will speak. Jessica's breath caught. She dropped the token, staring at it as if it might come alive. What the hell does that mean? The woman shook her head. We have to get out of here. Please, Jessica. Before they come back. Jessica looked around, scanning the forest. For a moment, she thought she saw movement, figures in the distance, just beyond the smoke, watching. Their masks caught the light for an instant before fading again. The whispers began. Not just whistles now. Voices. Faint, broken words floating on the air, as if the forest itself was speaking. Run. Blood. Final hunt. Jessica gritted her teeth, gripping her machete tighter. She refused to let fear paralyze her. She had survived the first hunt. She would survive the next. But in her gut, she knew the truth. White Mask wasn't the end. He was only the beginning. Somewhere deeper in the forest, the real danger waited. And the ashes were only starting to whisper. Jessica hadn't slept. She and the rescued woman, who finally told her name was Mara, had pushed through the forest until dawn, their bodies trembling from exhaustion. When the light broke through the canopy, Jessica almost cried from relief. Daylight meant safety, or so she thought. They reached a stream, its water cold and clear. Jessica splashed her face, washing off the blood and smoke. Mara crouched on the other side, hugging herself, her eyes darting at every rustle in the trees. They won't stop, Mara whispered. You don't understand. You killed their leader. That means a blood oath. Jessica looked up sharply. What do you mean? Mara hesitated, then glanced away. I heard them talk, before they locked me in that cage. The hunters aren't just killers. They're part of a cult. Every time a leader dies, the rest swear a blood oath to finish what he started. They won't stop until you're dead or until you take his place. Jessica's grip tightened on the machete. Take his place? Mara's voice dropped to a whisper. The mask. Whoever wears it becomes the new leader. Jessica felt the memory of White Mask's cold, lifeless eyes. The thought made her stomach turn. That's insane. I'm not like them. Mara's gaze flicked over Jessica's blood-stained arms, her trembling grip on the machete. Aren't you? Before Jessica could answer, a low horn sounded in the distance. Not a whistle this time. A deep, mournful sound that rolled through the trees. Mara went pale. The oath has begun. From the tree-line, figures emerged, half a dozen hunters in bone-white masks smeared with ash and blood. They moved in unison, slow and deliberate, each carrying weapons still wet with crimson. One knelt in the dirt, slicing open his palm with a blade, smearing blood across his mask. The others followed. Jessica's pulse thundered in her ears. They were performing a ritual. One hunter stepped forward, taller than the rest, his mask carved with jagged lines like scars. He lifted his bloodied hand and pointed straight at her. The others chanted, low and guttural, "Blood for blood. Blood for blood." Mara grabbed Jessica's arm. "We have to run." But Jessica didn't move. Something in her burned hotter than fear. She had fought too hard, lost too much, to keep running. She raised her machete, her voice hoarse but steady. "Come and try." The chanting grew louder, the hunters advancing through the trees. The horn sounded again, echoing like thunder. Jessica knew this wasn't just survival anymore. This was war. And the blood oath would only end one way. Jessica and Mara ran until their legs felt like lead, crashing through undergrowth, following the stream deeper into the woods. The hunters' chants still echoed behind them, low and primal, carried by the wind. When they finally stumbled into a clearing, Jessica collapsed against a rotting log, gasping for air. Mara sank to her knees, trembling. "We can't keep running," Jessica muttered, clutching her machete. Her hands ached from gripping it so tight. "They'll track us no matter where we go." Mara nodded slowly, then pointed across the clearing. "Look." Half hidden beneath a tangle of vines and roots stood a ruined and old stone building, its roof caved in, windows shattered, wood blackened with soot. It looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Jessica's gut tightened. Something about the place felt wrong. The air was heavier here, the silence too deep. But shelter was shelter. They crept inside. Dust and cobwebs choked the air, and the floor was littered with bones. Animal, maybe human. Symbols were carved into the walls, the same twisted marks she'd seen burned into trees and bodies. On a broken table lay a leather-bound book, edges charred, its cover cracked with age. Jessica flipped it open. The handwriting inside was frantic, scrawled in uneven ink. "The forest demands blood. The mask is the vessel. To wear it is to command the hunt. To break it is to defy the oath." Jessica's throat went dry. She turned the page. Sketches of the hunter's masks stared back at her, each unique, each paired with a name. At the end of the book was a page darker than the rest, smeared with dried blood. The first leader burned alive, yet his spirit whispers through the ashes. "Those who take the oath are bound to him. They cannot stop. They will not stop." Jessica slammed the book shut, heart racing. This isn't just a cult. It's a legacy. They've been doing this for generations. Mara hugged herself, shivering. "Then we can't win." Jessica looked at her sharply. "We can. If the mask makes a leader, then destroying it might end the chain." Before Mara could answer, the sound of footsteps scraped across the stone. Both women froze. Jessica raised the machete, listening. The steps were uneven, dragging. A figure appeared in the doorway, a man in a cracked mask, his body burned and scarred, flesh still blistered as if from fresh fire. His eyes glowed faintly in the dark. Mara gasped. "That's impossible." The figure whispered, his voice broken like ash in the wind, "You killed him, but he still walks." Jessica's blood turned to ice. White Mask was dead, she had seen him fall. But standing in the ruin, with smoke still rising from his wounds, was something worse. Not a man. A shadow of the past. Jessica's chest heaved as the burned figure staggered into the ruined hall, his mask cracked, his eyes glowing with an unnatural fire. Mara clutched Jessica's arm, whispering in terror, "It's him. White Mask. But he's supposed to be dead." Jessica raised her machete, her voice shaking but fierce. "No. That's not him. Not anymore. The figure moved closer, each step dragging, leaving smears of ash and blood across the stone floor. His voice rasped, broken like charred wood splintering. The oath is eternal. Kill one leader, and the fire brings him back. The ashes speak. The ashes lead. Jessica's mind raced. The journal's words echoed in her head, the first leader burned alive, yet his spirit whispers through the ashes. This thing wasn't White Mask. It was something older, darker, using his corpse as a vessel. Jessica, Mara pleaded, pulling her back toward the door. We have to run. We can't fight him. Jessica gritted her teeth. We run, we die. He'll follow us. They'll all follow us. The shadow lunged suddenly, impossibly fast for its broken frame. Jessica swung her machete, sparks flying as steel met bone. The creature staggered, but instead of falling, it laughed low and guttural, a sound that froze the air. Then, from behind, arms grabbed Jessica. She gasped, twisting, and saw Mara's face, eyes wide, but not with fear. With resolve. Mara wrenched the machete from Jessica's grip and shoved her hard to the ground. What are you doing? Jessica shouted, scrambling back. Mara's hands shook, but she held the machete like it belonged to her. I never told you the whole truth. I wasn't just a prisoner. They chose me. I was supposed to be the sacrifice, and the successor. But then you came, and you ruined everything. Jessica's stomach dropped. You. Mara's face twisted with desperation. You don't understand. They promised if I completed the oath, I'd be spared. If I kill you, if I wear the mask, it ends. The burned figure loomed behind Mara, ash drifting from his body like smoke from a dying fire. His voice slithered between them, take the blood. Take the mask. Lead the hunt. Jessica's world spun. She had fought so hard, bled so much, only to be betrayed by the one person she thought she'd saved. Mara stepped closer, machete trembling in her hands. I'm sorry, Jessica. It's you or me. Jessica's eyes burned, fury replacing fear. Then come and try. For a heartbeat, the ruin filled with silence, the creature whispering, the fire crackling outside, Jessica and Mara locked in a deadly standoff. The hunt wasn't over. The real hunt was just beginning. The air inside the ruin burned with tension. Jessica crouched low, unarmed, her eyes locked on Mara, once a victim, now holding the machete like an executioner. Behind Mara, the burned figure watched, smoke drifting from his body, its voice a whisper crawling through the stone walls. Blood for blood. The mask awaits. Jessica's mind screamed for an opening. She couldn't believe she had saved Mara, only to be betrayed. But survival didn't allow time for grief. Outside, a horn bellowed. Low. Powerful. The sound vibrated through the earth, deeper than before. Mara stiffened, glancing toward the door. Jessica followed her gaze, and her stomach dropped. Dozens of shadows moved through the trees. Not 6, not 10, more than 20 hunters, masks glinting in the firelight. Their chanting rolled like thunder, blood for blood. Blood for blood. Jessica's pulse hammered. This wasn't a hunt anymore. This was a gathering. The burned figure stepped toward the doorway, raising its arms as if summoning them. The hunters knelt in unison, pressing bloodied palms to the dirt. A ritual. A coronation. Mara's voice cracked. It's happening. They're choosing a new leader. She looked at Jessica, guilt flickering in her eyes. It should be me. Jessica shook her head. You think they'll spare you? You think wearing that mask will make you safe? You'll just be another pawn in their cycle. Mara's grip tightened on the machete, torn between fear and desperation. At least I'll live. The burned figure turned, its hollow eyes glowing. Choose. Kill her. Take the mask. Or die beside her. Jessica felt a surge of rage. She refused to be prey again. She scanned the ruin and spotted a rusted metal rod among the rubble. Quietly, she edged toward it, never breaking eye contact with Mara. Mara raised the machete high, stepping forward. Jessica lunged at the same moment, snatching the rod and swinging with everything she had. The metal cracked against Mara's wrist, and the machete clattered to the ground. Jessica dove, grabbing it before Mara could recover. She rose to her feet, weapon in hand once more, breath ragged. Outside, the hunters roared, their chanting rising to a fever pitch. The burned figure spread its arms wide, flames igniting in its chest. Jessica's blood ran cold. She realized the gathering wasn't just for a leader, it was for a sacrifice. The forest demanded blood, and if she didn't act, she would be the offering. She tightened her grip on the machete, staring at Mara and the monster behind her. The hunters outside slammed their weapons against the ground in unison, a drumbeat of war. Jessica knew what was coming. The final hunt. The chanting outside reached a deafening roar. The hunters slammed their blades into the earth, their masks gleaming in the firelight. The ruined hall trembled as if the forest itself demanded blood. Jessica stood with the machete gripped tight, sweat and blood streaking her face. Across from her, Mara crouched low, eyes filled with desperation. Behind her, the burned figure spread its arms wide, flames licking through the cracks of its ruined body. One must fall. The mask must be fed. Jessica's voice cracked with fury. I'm done playing your game. The hunters outside surged forward, flooding into the ruin like a tidal wave of shadows. Their eyes glowed behind carved masks, weapons raised. Jessica spun, swinging her machete, slicing through the first attacker's throat. Blood sprayed, hot and metallic, but there was no time to think, only survive. Mara lunged at Jessica's back. Instinct took over. Jessica twisted, parrying the blow, the machete ringing against a jagged blade Mara had pulled from the dirt. You're supposed to die. Mara screamed, her voice breaking. It's the only way. Jessica shoved her back, rage boiling. No. I've bled, I've fought, and I've killed to survive. I won't hand myself over. The burned figure stepped down from the altar, its voice echoing through every stone, every tree. Then burn. Both of you. The air ignited. Flames erupted from the ground, circling the ruin in a ring of fire. Hunters closed in, their chanting becoming manic. Jessica's lungs burned from the smoke, but her vision locked on Mara. This betrayal ended now. With a roar, Jessica charged. Their blades clashed in sparks, each strike filled with desperation. Mara fought with wild fury, but Jessica fought with purpose. With survival. Jessica slammed the machete across Mara's arm, sending her weapon spinning away. Before Mara could recover, Jessica drove her shoulder into her chest, knocking her flat on the stone floor. The machete hovered above Mara's throat. Mara's eyes widened, tears spilling. Please, if you kill me, you become them. That's what they want. Jessica's grip trembled. For a heartbeat, the world slowed, the fire, the chanting, the shadows pressing in. Was Mara right? Was this all just a cycle waiting to trap her? Then she remembered the voices, the tokens, the endless hunt. It didn't matter. If she hesitated, she'd die. With a cry, Jessica brought the blade down. Silence. The chanting stopped. The hunters froze. Mara's body went limp beneath her, blood spreading dark across the stone. The burned figure staggered, its flames flickering. The oath, broken, it let out an unearthly scream, its body collapsing into ash. One by one, the hunters fell to their knees, clutching their masks, before crumbling into dust. Jessica stumbled back, chest heaving, surrounded by ash and silence. The fire ring died down, leaving only smoldering embers. For the first time, the forest was quiet. She had survived. But at what cost? Jessica stood alone in the ruins, machete dripping, her eyes burning with both grief and fury. The hunt was over. Or so she thought.